now in Spanish, and thank you to all of you who have come to this last activity that has been programmed in this room before the closing act. And this is going to be focused in the topic of cooperativism. The cooperative model is a social entrepreneurial model that is very well present in the Basque Country. And in fact, we can tell you that thanks to the cooperativism, the entrepreneurial reality in this region is different to the other ones. In order to talk about this topic, this issue, and especially about the experience of Mondragon Cooperative, we have organized a roundtable that is going to be made dynamic by 2 professors of the Mondragon University and 3 important managing directors of this Mondragon group with having a great experience in the management of our cooperatives. And before we start, I wanted to start to introduce the people who are accompanying me at the table. On my left, I have got Javier Goyenechea, who nowadays is the General Director of the Agroalimentary Group of the organization and President of the Congress and Permanent Commission of Mondragon. On his left, we have got Juan Mari Palencia, Vice President of Innovation, Promotion and Knowledge of Mondragon, and at the same time, Vice President of the Automobile Division and Powertrain of the corporation. Then, we've got Víctor Arizabalaga, President of the Division of Automobile Tooling and Systems of Mondragon. And on the other part of the table is Eneritz Pacagay, who is the director of PANGI, who is the Cooperativism Institute of Mondragon. I am Sayo Arando, who is the coordinator of human resources and entrepreneurial activities of Mondragon University. I'm going to give the floor to Eneritz so that we can start focusing on the topic of cooperativism. Thank you so much, Sayoa. In order to understand and to locate the cooperative experience of Mondragon, it is necessary to recover the figure of the priest José María Arizmendiarreta, who came in 1941 to Mondragon after the Civil War to work in the parish and work with the young people of the municipality. From his arrival to the creation of the first cooperative 14 years after, he focused his effort in educating the young people, but he didn't do that with a program of traditional teaching, but from an integral perspective of what education must be, working on technical issues and professional ones through especially the professional school, and working or offering in a parallel way a solid training in humanities and values too. At the background of the thinking and practice of Arizmendiarreta, we have got the ideal of a more mature person, more aware, and playing a very important role in a community that is more self-organized and self-managed. And in order to reach this utopia, Arizmendiarreta thought of approaching one of the principal conflicts of focus of conflict of the society at that moment. So the conflict between work and capital. At the moment, they wanted to transform what a company is, what an entrepreneur, what a firm is, a company is. In other words. In the origins of this cooperative experience, there are 3 pillars that sustain it. On the one hand, to launch the economic development and to put it at the service of the welfare of people, to make the company more human, and with all these things to promote the communitarian integral development. In 1955, Ugor was born, the first cooperative of the group, hand in hand and made up by 5 youngsters that have been trained by Arizmendiarreta. The market was very close to the outer world, and the firm determination of these youngsters to show the capacity of the working class people, of the simple people, enable this success of the first cooperative, and the bet of this first generation of cooperatives is to generate more working positions in cooperative format, and also to support the creation of new companies, made it easier the quick expansion of the movement, giving birth to experience that is defined and characterized among other elements by its cooperative diversity. I have been quoting the vocation of transforming the environment, having this experience, where this experience was born, And this transforming vocation was specified in a very firm bet for making cooperative the central aspects of the community. Most of the cooperatives of Mondragon are cooperatives associated work, but beyond that, also saving, education, consumption services have been transformed in a cooperative. Another element that we can remark from this cooperative experience of Mondragon is the amount and diversity of industrial cooperatives. Although in the world there are many experiences which are very interesting references of groups of cooperatives or cooperatives, Mondragon is outstanding because of its diversity and the amount of cooperatives within the industrial sector. Mondragon is characterized too for its capacity or bet for the innovation and adaptation, and it's not an innovation that has been restricted to the generation of new products or new businesses. It is also an experience that has got very interesting elements regarding innovation in the organizing field and social one. We can also highlight the functioning in network of this experience. Mondragon has a trajectory longer than 50 years, and there have been several ways of getting organized and getting grouped, but these shapes have always been accompanied by intercooperation mechanisms that have allowed to maintain the jobs, to make visible the activities of the group, and also to be entrepreneurs and to start with other new initiatives. And in the extent that we are talking about experience of cooperative, we cannot leave behind, we cannot forget also the person as the focus of everything, the center of everything, having to do with the way of organizing the company and distributing the results. Nowadays, Mondragon is made up by more or less 250 entities, from which 103 are cooperatives. In the year 2013, the total income is going to increase to more than 12,500 million of euros, and until now, there were more than 175,000 people working there. So those are really very meaningful figures for the community of the Basque Country. And there are many aspects that have enabled to reach the present dimension. And we would like to focus this roundtable in three of the success levels of this experience. We wanted to focus this roundtable in innovation, internationalization, and in the personal center of everything. Thank you so much, Enedith. Well, first of all, we are going to talk about the innovation in Mondragon. Competitiveness in the markets of Mondragon has been based and is based in its innovative vocation, and in fact, the system of innovation of Mondragon is expanded from the university to the technological centers and even to each of the cooperatives of the group. Just to give you some piece of data, at the moment it counts on 3 technological centers, 12 units of research and development. In the year 2013, the total expenditure of research and development was more than 130 million euros. So this is 2.85 of the total sales. And of course, taking into account the added value. What we cannot doubt is that Mondragon is betting clearly for innovation. So within this context, we would like to go into deep with Juan Mari Palencia about the internal strategy. Juan Mari, we have got many questions for you. We have several questions for you. How can we understand or what practical experiences, what interesting practical experiences there are in the field of innovation within Mondragon? I think that you have already remarked, both you and Enedith, that the first thing is that to be a member of a cooperative requires also to be an innovative person, because otherwise we couldn't have adapted ourselves to the different circumstances, giving always innovative solutions to the different problems that have arisen for the very first moment. Because the very first moment is when you create a cooperative. You create a cooperative that is an entrepreneurial model different to the one existing before, because let's say that there's a jump from being the owners of the productive resources. So the owners are the workers. So it's a totally participatory movement where the main goal is the same, so to obtain some results with a humanist element within. So from that moment is a direct competence of the topic of innovation within the fact of being cooperativists. And then from this very first experience, there have been realities. So a cooperative itself probably perhaps wouldn't have solved all the issues, because there also is saying that one of the factors, of the positive factors of cooperativism, is that to be cooperative is to face the solution of the problems not alone, but not with solitude, but with solidarity. So this is one of the things that Tenerist has mentioned before. There's a need of training, of people. We start with a professional school, and from that moment onwards, this is developed until setting up a university as the one we have got, this University of Mondragon. But it's the same. There's a need, or there are some problems that are direct problems linked to these social topics and of course the healthcare. And Lagunaro was created because the people who otherwise wouldn't have had access to those services have got it, and then around it we create a field of funding in order to grow, so that the cooperatives can have also resources for getting funds, so a savings bank called Laboral Cucha. And then also fourth element, innovation in technology, product research. The first center of whole Spain is Ikerland. So really this competence of innovation is something really that has to do with the cooperative movement. Okay, somehow you have answered to the second question I wanted to pose, and I had prepared, but just in case you want to add something more, I'm going to pose it to you. What do you think that historically what has historically been the contribution to innovation of Mondragon, and which is the present contribution? They have contributed with all these things, but I would say, and this has been mentioned before, innovation within cooperativism is not only in what each cooperative makes from a point of view of the product, of adding value to the customers and to obtain a better position in the market, but this is a social issue, a social topic. The element that has contributed most from an innovative point of view is that nowadays the societies where cooperatives are could be totally different. The data you haven't given is that we are contributing to the gross product of the Basque Country, 10% in the industrial area. And this is made with a model that is totally different to the rest ones. And this is the first contribution, the main contribution. Okay, I'm thinking of the future. Which are the challenges or things we have to approach that we have as a group in this field? Okay, I think that the challenges we've got are the same that any company can have, or society, in the context we live or in the world we live nowadays. So I would say that the present world is practically... So there are three features: the topic of sustainability, the one of globalization, and there's an element that is worrying me more and more, which is the immediate answer we have to give to everyone, so just a click away. And this is a topic that is affecting us. In a way, I'm going to remark three aspects in the cooperative movement. This very last one, the one of the instant. We are cooperatives, so each person is a vote. There is an element of participation, self-management, so this requires time. Things cannot be communicated, and then we inform, we work on alternatives, and we look for the most adequate solutions to people. So therefore, we are not just one click away. Reflections have got to do with the time. And this is a very important challenge, because we have to make decisions in a way that is ever-changing, in a brutal way, in a quicker way. So how can we mix both elements of the participation, that everybody can feel integrated in the project, giving quick answers to that? This is one. And I would highlight too, in the topic of globalization, the other aspect, which is the very own cooperative model. Here in the Basque Country, we have been able to configure a legal model that really helps that the cooperative values. can be represented in the company or can have an entrepreneurial model. However, this does not happen in the rest of the world. So each part of the world is different with different laws, legislation, so to say it in a very simple way. Practically, they are partners of the cooperative, or the cooperatives, the people who are working in the Basque Country, not the ones from another parts of the world. So we have got a very important challenge. So it's not only because of transferring the legal model, but also for transferring the cooperative model that goes far beyond the very own legal way that has been set up or established. And a third point that is very much linked with the topic of product, and with this symbiosis we've got among the university and the knowledge research centers and the very own realities of the companies to achieve a better position, a bigger element of making something different in the sense that this process, so to make the process in a much quicker way, to launch product to the market, business models more quickly in order to have a better position as cooperative. And linked to that, we've got the topic of achieving that the new activities, because our challenge within the entrepreneurial policy is to generate jobs. This is not something new, this is something fashionable nowadays, but we have done that in several prior strategic planifications. Within that, richness is in the transformation of the society we live in, and the best way is doing that through education and also through work. So this generation of employment with new activities, within that, the degree of success of those new activities can revert in a bigger degree of efficiency. So thank you so much, Juan Mari. Another of the success factors or pillars of Mondragon is the strategy of internationalization, as Nelich has already mentioned before. At this moment, international sales, for instance, in the industrial area, represent 71% of the total sales of the corporation. Mondragon has got nowadays 9 corporate delegation, 122 productive plants, industrial plants abroad, and more than 11,000 people working in them. So this is a very important expansion for the Basque Country. Bichor Larizabalaga is going to make us understand much better the strategy of internationalization that he is implementing in the corporation. I've got some questions for you, Bichor. Let's go and start with the first one. Which do you think that have been the motivation that have led us to the internationalization? Okay, good afternoon. First of all, to say that, of course, as Sayoa has been telling you, internationalization is one of the basic strategies of the group in order to have a better picture of that. And in the last years, the corporation, Mondragon Group, is fostering, promoting the internationalization of its cooperatives. In any case, after that, we have to understand this because each cooperative, each of them, with their respective businesses and depending on their own reflection processes, and then specific decisions are the ones making the decision of getting international or becoming international and where to do that. Although we have got our own specific features in the market with the rest of the companies, and therefore from this point of view, we have got the same problems as any other company has. And the motivation, the essential motivation of the internationalization in our group is the creation of value for the customer, for the client. The client is always there in order to reinforce, to strengthen our businesses, to make that our businesses become competitive, profitable. And I would say that in our case, the ultimate objective, the ultimate goal is also to create new jobs, which is something that makes us different from other companies, from many other companies. From that moment onwards, the projects of internationalization we've got have to match with the strategy of each of the businesses or companies. We must have a directive team aligned with these projects, and they can pursue different goals. So growth, expansion, new income, trying to look for new opportunities. 2 goals of reduction of costs, raw materials, logistics, working ones, energy, scale economy, to the objective of diversification in the markets in order not so vulnerable when there are changes in the local demand, as it has happened in the present crisis, in order to have a good position and be close to the customers, and to make the most of the opportunities of merging, acquisition, cooperation through joint ventures. So there can be different goals in each of the cases. So this is the case, and in some occasions there's more than one goal that is overlapping with another. When we are analyzing our internationalization process, in my specific experience in the automobile sector, we have had everything. We have had implementations whose goal was a better positioning, being closer to the customers and trying to offer a global supply. We have also had implementations whose goal is the reduction of costs, trying to have places that would allow some competitive prices for our customers. So this is everything I have to say. Okay. Juan Mari has already mentioned this before, but I think that it's quite clear that the creation of work has always been really the most important thing in our cooperatives. How does internationalization affect the creation of jobs? Our reflection is that internationalized companies generate more employment, more jobs than the ones which are not only in the external companies, but also in our environments. This is the conclusion, the fundamental conclusion we've reached. And this is not only by chance, hasn't happened by chance. With some exceptions, and in general, the internationalized companies are more competitive because they have a rivalry with a bigger number of companies in the world. Those are companies with a vocation of being cooperative and establish networks. They learn because they have to get adapted to different cultures, languages, values, and so on. And those are companies with more information about what is happening in the world and what is happening in their own companies and businesses. And within this context of a bigger competitiveness and learning, in general, I would say that those are companies with a more innovative vocation. So they are creating processes and products that are generating more jobs, even in the surroundings. So those are with a great qualification and stability are the ones that these jobs have. Sometimes we do not have time to think more of generating jobs, and it's enough just to think of our survival. So sometimes to restrict ourselves to our markets here would lead us to lose a good position among our customers, to lose profitability, to lose jobs. And I would sum up saying that internationalization, the effect of the internationalization is not the loss of the job positions. The main motivation of this loss of the jobs is the lack of competitiveness. Okay. And a last question. How are the factories or the plants of Mondragon in foreign countries managed? As you can imagine, we have got a lot of plants, a lot of factories, 122, many of them abroad, and probably the management is not exactly the same everywhere, but we have got some common aims that, and I think we can fulfill them to a good extent. We try that the management model of the companies in the outer countries is the same as the one we are using here in the parental company, and we have got annual objectives, goals, as you can have all in your organizations, each of your organizations, annual goals that we are pursuing, and we make a monitorization of them periodically with their indicators, deadlines, and actions too. I would highlight that, and it is within our DNA to count on the participation of the workers in the management of the companies, creating working teams for the achievement of the goals we have set, and also maintaining a communication plan in order to communicate the evolution of these objectives. And I would say that above all, in those companies that have already been for some years outside, abroad, we have also established some participations of the workers in the results of the the branches. We have got training plans. We have got a correct retribution system that are guaranteeing the level of the salary of the environment. And due to our culture and way of working, I think we are close people. We are people close to the workers of the organizations in such a way that we can understand them and get adapted quickly to the local culture. For us, it is very important, it is essential that there must be a good balance among what we want to take to the outer plans, our way of working, procedures, processes, tools, and also the right adaptation to the different features of the local culture of the country we are in. On the other hand, it's also very important, and we try to maintain a global approach so that people from the branches, the partners of the branch, can feel the external companies as theirs, are present there, cooperate with their teams. There can be a very good communication, and if it's possible, they can be even more sensitive towards them because they need them, especially in the first stages of the existence. And finally, I'd say that we also take good care of the management of people who have to go from here to the factories in foreign countries, and they stay for a long time there. So this has to contribute to the efficiency both of the factories and our businesses. Thank you so much, Victor. And the truth is that I have really enjoyed your presentation. The topic of internationalization always generates a lot of interest in those people who come to visit to us to the university. Really many people come to us, and the question of internationalization is always there. And I think that you have explained very well how can we understand this strategy of internationalization from an experience of Cooperative and from Mondragon. And last, we want to highlight the centrality of all the people, the centrality of the person in the cooperative model, in the thinking of Arismendi Arrieta. Work is the most important tool of a person for her development and the progress of the community. This perspective is understood in such a way that the persons are not tools to reach some goals, and their development is a goal in itself. I'm going to give you some figures, some data related to people. I think that Eneritz has said before that nowadays in Mondragon there are more than 75,000 people working there. A very important percentage of these people are partners, and this means that they are owners of our project, or we are owners of our project. More specific data. 84% of the people who are working in the industrial area are partners, so that you can have an idea of which is the extent of this society dimension. The social capital of the workers amounts to, in the whole of the cooperatives, amounts to 1,711 million euros, and we have got 815 people who are partners participating in the different ruling bodies of the respective cooperatives. We are going to go into deep, and we are going to talk with Javier Goyenechea about the topic of this person as the central part of the project, how this person as a central part is reflected in the cooperative.
The first thing that we should say is that co-ops, Mondragon is a corporation integrated by cooperatives of associated work. In the world, there are many agricultural co-ops, co-ops dedicated to credit or to teaching, whose workers are not partners. But we have agricultural co-ops, co-ops dedicated to credit, banking. But the difference is that partners are the owners. We are not just consumers, or we are the partners and owners of the cooperative. That is why the person is in the heart. Participation in capital. The different partners make the same contribution when we join the co-op and we become members and owners, and then different movements of capitals only take place if we have positive or negative results, which will be going to the capital is all the time into the hands of the members, and capital is subordinated to each person. You are just going to be given an annual rate in case that is positive, and then this is distributed on equal terms among the different partners. Democratic participation is defined in our essence. Each person has one vote. The manager has just as much the same power as the others, and we have democratic elections. That is how we choose our board, and that is how we usually work. And we should also be talking about participation from the management point of view, which is similar to other societies. There are many companies which are making progress from the point of view of participation. We would like to have a model that self-manages itself, but it is true that each co-op is in a different situation. If, for instance, you are working and in your position, your work is not very pleasant, or if you have a very bad boss, a bad director, then it is true that at that point, maybe that may be democratic, but the situation of the worker won't be good. So that theoretical model of cooperative, which I consider to be the best entrepreneurial model that exists, because it is the best from the point of view of the distribution of wealth, and that is what we want and guarantee that we can have. But something essential for us is the behavior of workers all over. Centrality of people within the management model. How can we see that more clearly? Most of the co-ops participate in traditional management models. We have, within the entrepreneurial fabric in the Basque Country, we have much more weight in the cooperatives compared to the weight of other businesses. We have certifications. We have golden, awards and Q awards since the year 2007. We decided we wanted to have our own management system so as to foster our feeling of belonging to the members. That is just one model, just as the FQM, based upon people cooperating and generating a shared project through this participatory move, so as to be able to obtain an excellent company. If we talk now about cooperative leadership, some months or years ago, there was a meeting of the different highest leaders or managers in the co-ops, and there was a survey being done to try and know which were the elements that make our management style different in our co-op, and managers defined 3 keys. First, we want to live in a positive way, convey enthusiasm, being honest people, to do what I say, and to, keep our promises, and also to generate a shared vision. We need to build a shared vision, but in a participatory way, including all the members. That makes our difference. And if we now talk about the cooperative culture today, we are in a process of reflection, and one of the most important elements for us is culture and cooperative values, not as much as to change our values, but it is true that there are things to change, because we need to be very demanding, we need to show solidarity, we need to show more co-responsibility, and also we need to be able to experiment those values, put them into practice on a daily basis in each of our factories. Javier, and the last questions, which is very specific or maybe a bit deeper. The meaning or the importance of that feeling of belonging. Yes, it is true that some years ago we also studied the meaning of our experience, our cooperative experience, And these experiences started 60 years ago, and things were changing, generations were changing, there has been a generational change, globalization is there too. So many co-ops have reached a very important dimension, and they require new management models, and we decided to change three things: to strengthen cooperative education, to strengthen participation, and also the engagement with the social transformation of the places where we are. And right now, after this whole process, we have decided that we were born 60 years ago because it was necessary to create co-ops. There was an economic necessity. We needed to give our workers some more protagonism. There was a social need. We wanted to have more autonomy, but now this has translated into a welfare cooperativism. We have expanded. We have made quite a lot of money, and now we are coming into a stage into which members or workers are becoming a bit bourgeois, so as to say. So that is why we are now trying to redefine this new stage of cooperativism, the cooperativism of co-responsibility, where we all want to be very demanding with ourselves. And now that we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of Mendiendarreta, I would like to remember something within this conference, because the main challenge, or one of the main challenges we have, the founder already spoke about it, and it is that there is a saturation of ideas, but we need to have people, men of action. We have many theoreticians, but we lack people who have a solidary engagement. Theories are very well. We have a perfect model, but we need the engagement of all of us. Thank you. Thank you very much, Javier, Juan Mari, and Víctor, for your contributions. And we need to come to an end, but before, we would like to highlight and share a couple of ideas with you. Just as Javier was saying, this experience started more than 50 years ago. And over these 50 or 60 years, there have been many changes and modifications in the local environment, but in the global world too. The world, from the political perspective, economic and social perspective, things have changed a great deal. And I think that in Mondragon we have been successful, we have had limitations, but we have shown that we are able to keep on moving within this context, which is ever-changing. And just as my colleagues were saying, we have done so thanks to our innovation capability, because we wanted to become international, and also, of course, we need to say thank you to our members, people who have generated this experience. This Mondragon is a complex, heterogeneous project, and right now it is true that we too are into a reflection process. The results of this reflection process, where we're thinking about the cooperative articulation and the different values that we share in the group, just as Javier was saying, this will make it possible for us to keep on moving, expanding and getting better. The first members used to say that this has to be a practical living experience with failures, with mistakes, but also with ideas and stories of success. So this is our final idea. We are living, evolving, and we are building our co-op day after day, thanks to the effort of all the different members and always trying to respond to the context. We have a few minutes left, so if any of you had a question, please don't hesitate. Or if any of the members here would like to share a conclusion with us. Have you changed your values? Are the values still the same? Yes, our basic principles are the same, and values which have been permanent. We have incorporated innovation. Innovation was incorporated in the year 2007, but we still have the same values. Yes, the quick response. Yes, that agility, being able to respond and to reply quickly. What within the co-op or concerning clients, concerning customers? Yes, you were speaking about that. You said that was a value, something that you wanted to incorporate, to be flexible, agile, being able to respond and to quickly. Well, yes. Now that is necessary. Before, it was much more important to make the right decision, even if it took some time, so that everybody could share the project. And we had that time to allocate. But once we have defined the project, of course, decisions then will be easier to make. But today, things have to be immediate, and it is true that that immediacy generates a difficulty that we need to solve. But the priority value is participation, engagement, which comes into contradiction with that very quick decision making. I come from the Ertzaintza, from the local Basque police. But I would like to add something. We have many different areas of business areas, and we are not huge companies neither. I think that in many of our businesses and businesses areas, our agility, our capability to respond quickly and swiftly is just the same as our competitors. I think that we are quite agile because we are not as big as some of our competitors are. But if we are talking here about making decisions concerning, for instance, the closing down of a factory, well, that is very hard for us. In the private sector, maybe they can get rid of a factory much easier than ourselves. That is hard, much harder for us. And of course, that has advantages and disadvantages too. Our resistance capacity or capability is much bigger, but for us, that is a very hard decision to make, the fact of closing down a factory. Maybe there we are slow, yes, but because it's hard. But by and large, I think that we are agile, flexible, and swift in their response. Hello? I have a question. I think you said that the status of workers if we compare the parent company and the other companies, that their status is not the same. But you are a global team. Can you please elaborate that a little bit? From the management point of view, that is not generating any problems. Maybe it generates problems from the point of view of our values. We would like all the companies to be cooperatives, but it's true that we have branches and subsidiary companies. But we are still very far away from that, and there are many reasons. Before, Josema, we were talking about our founder, and he used to say first cooperative members and second cooperatives. If we go to Brazil or India, it is true that they have a different culture. They don't have this cooperative culture, thinking that people are going to be contributing with their capital, that they are going to be living, the benefits generated there in the company. That is a difficult culture to have. And then the different legal systems. Here we have a legal system that makes it easier, and then we should also speak about it. There is also a difficulty from the control point of view. When you create a co-op, the cooperative has its own decision-making power. Now that we are turning international, becoming international, we also need to have a joint strategy for all of us. Of course, we cannot, each of us, be working on our side. Many difficulties. It is true that is a challenge ahead of us. Let me say it otherwise. There are different elements that make this difficult. It is true that in certain countries they don't know what a co-op is. There are cultural difficulties. economic difficulties, decision-making difficulties. If you have for subsidiary companies, you can end up having members there who are going to be making decisions here. And that can generate also an internal problem because we tend to accommodate a little bit too much. I think that it is true that we should be more courageous, and those subsidiary companies, maybe they should have a different contribution. They should also be participating in the distribution of capital. I think that Mondragon is becoming less and less Basque, right? And here I'm talking about the people who participate in the co-op. Right now, international sales represent 73%, and 35% of our jobs are outside. 65% of the jobs are here, but 1/3 of those jobs are outside, not in the Basque Country. We wanted to create companies where the person, when the human being should be in the center. And that is why we decided to create cooperatives. Okay, so to follow that same thread, in the past that was a historical value because we wanted to have an engagement with the Basque Country. We wanted our members to be Basque. But we have also another principle, which is universality. When we think about going abroad, from the point of view of our engagement with the local communities wherever we are and our engagement with those people, is it enough just to think that our engagement with employment is here? Is it enough just to think that we are internationalizing our activity? Or maybe we just need to internationalize the model. The model of creating subsidiary companies is not enough. The approach should be much more universal. I don't know what you think about all that, but maybe it could be interesting to know whether it is enough to think that we need to be abroad to defend employment here in the Basque Country, or if we should start by also transforming the local communities of those places where we are abroad. As Beecher said before, being abroad is not something to defend yourself. No, it is just a position we want to be in the market, in different markets. Why not? And in all the different experiences, we want to develop things. And for instance, if we are in Brazil, many companies would have already left, maybe many companies have already left Brazil now in the current situation, but our engagement in Brazil is exactly the same as here. As I said before, we have a challenge, yes, because the legal shape or the legal status of our cooperative co-op cannot be exported, cannot be applied because of the legal requirements, because of those different characteristics. So we need to identify innovative things or elements. And we have made already different attempts, but even the idea concerning what a co-op is or a cooperativistic movement, that is very different in the different countries, in different cultures. That is why Beecher said something very important. First, they are cooperative members. That education is very important here too. Who has to become international, first of all, is our university to be able to train, to give education, and then to be able to generate the context so as to create cooperatives. That the question maybe is, how are we growing? How are we expanding? And we haven't replied to one of the questions before. Maybe we could be growing and expanding more, but we have a financing problem with the capital and the contribution from the members. That is not enough to grow, to expand. We cannot be in the stock exchange, so we need to invent different formulas so as to finance ourselves and so that we can grow. That is the challenge. We cannot grow and expand just as much as we would like. So that is why we need to be innovative and identify different formulae to obtain capital, because people who are going to be contributing with capital and money, then they will want to have the power. And that's not our case. I come from the university and I agree with you. In this experience, yes, first of all, we created universities and then co-ops. And in the world, it has been the other way around. So it is true that something very interesting is to know that that is the way to go. Yes, it is true. If we want this group abroad to be different, with the university, we have to be there working hand in hand with the local communities so that this global project is possible. Well, that is what I can say from the university's point of view.
Bueno, ya está. Hasta aquí hemos llegado.
Well, thank you very much. We have respected this hour. Thank you very much for your interest, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.